Okay, question 10. I'm going to not go over too much of the background here. If you're not sure how to find the average value of a function, look at numbers 8 and 9, and that's going to give you exactly what you need in a bit more detail. I will remind you that I like to do the average last, so I put some sort of mark on my paper to remind me that I have not solved the problem until I have actually done all of the steps, because there's a step I save for the end that most people do in the beginning. I just don't like writing fractions over and over again, so I save it for the end. So there's my star to remind me that this is an average value of a function, not just an integral. So I'm going to have something extra to do at the end. So they're giving us the interval from 0 to 9 of 4 over x plus 1, and we're going to have to find the average value over that interval. And the first step is going to be to find the integral. I've got something over, if I put this in parentheses, this is just to the first power, and I know that if I took the integral of 1 over u du, that's something that I can do. That's going to give me the natural log of the absolute value of u. Because that u is only to the first power, I can do that. So we'll go ahead and set up the u substitution here. If you're shaky on any of this, go back and look at files for the last homework. There's lots of substitution in there. So u equals what was in parentheses. That's x plus 1 du dx. The derivative of u with respect to x is 1. So du equals dx. I mean, it's 1 dx. That doesn't quite work for us because we've got a 4 up here. We've got something extra up here. And remember, I told you that if you got something extra up here, it goes into the top of a fraction. I guess we kind of have a 1 here, so we need something in the bottom of our fraction. So we've got a 1 in the bottom, a 4 on the top, times this integral that we know how to take, plus we need to plug in our new bounds. So we need an upper bound and a lower bound. Our upper bound, plug in a 9 to our u, that gives us 9 plus 1 is 10. Lower bound, plug in a 0. 0 plus 1 is 1, so we have 10 and 1 as our bounds there. Do some simplification. For this integral is the natural log of the absolute value of u, and we're doing this from 1 to 10. I said absolute value, I didn't write it, but as we talked about before, I can get rid of those absolute value signs because both of these numbers are positive. If one of them was negative, we'd have an issue and we'd need those absolute value signs. But because both of these numbers are positive, that's not a problem. So we don't have to worry about the absolute value anymore. So let's go ahead and plug things in. That's going to be 4 times the natural log of 10 minus 4 times the natural log of 1. Remember, we've talked about this a few times now. The natural log of 1 is 0. So my actual integral, because 4 times 0 is 0, is just going to be 4 times the natural log of 10. I've got my integral, but I got a star at the top of the page. I'm not done yet. They want the average value, so what I have to do now is multiply times a fraction. And the fraction is 1 over the difference between these two bounds, right? So that's going to be 1 over 9 minus 0, which is 9. And this is a perfectly acceptable answer for WebAssign. You could simplify, you could do 4/9 natural log of 10, but I just assume you stopped right as soon as you got that answer. So we found our integral, and then to find the average, we multiplied it by 1 over the difference between these two numbers here. Okay? And I don't know if you saw me pointing those. I think it was off the top of the screen maybe. 1 over 9 minus 0. 9 minus 0 is 9, and that gave us that fraction. And that should be all you need to get through this particular homework. I've done several of the substitution questions. I've done all of the average value questions, I think. Yep, so you should be all set, but if you have any questions, shoot me an email.